going for the team fight compositions, always opting for a strong top laner and try to play through it. We've seen Renekton.
They never really played through it.
Yeah, we've seen Renekton, we've seen Jax, we've seen Aatrox, but regionally we have not seen any Malphite at all. Almost always was picked up by teams that were weaker than them, and they could just play carries into it and still win the game. So they did not figure out how strong it could be, and that might be what gets Genk out of the groups. Of course, if they win this game, they're still in. There are still hopes for getting second into the group, maybe even first. But
this
then
is a very
tiebreakers will have to
game
play
for
this.
both teams.
Literally, Genk stays in EMEA Masters or EMEA Masters if they win this one. If they lose, they're out.
If they lose, they're out, but North still has a lot of chances as well. Even if they lose this one, they can just still have to play another game. They can still go 3-3, and then Genk's maximum is 3-3 as well, so that makes this group pretty tense. If you're just tuning in right now, we are the Elite Series. We're following our own teams that aren't doing all too hot and heavy, but are still playing important matches like Genk is right now. So we are following Group A and C. If you want to find out what's happening in Group B and D, you should go over to universe_TV. You can do exclamation mark stream in the chat to find the link. And their Group B is a bit like this one. So A and B both are pretty tense, pretty close. While as expected, Group C and D, well, they have the TCL and the LFL representative that are looking to go undefeated, and that makes groups way less close than they are.
It's always fighting for second spot because it's so hard to take first spot for them, and you really have to catch them off guard on the first day, and then it's only one win you can get. And then at max you maybe even play tiebreakers, so it's really difficult to do. Seneca is face checking Roberto's.
I mean, they have sustain, so should be fine, but Roberto's and
there is no kill pressure.
Ryan can have the push
you have
pressure.
Brown Kaisa, so
Mikkel
just
finds indecision on the ward he just plays, but Omen can just collapse on this play, so should be careful about it. Well, he actually goes in, he jumps forward because Renekton is already roaming towards this mid lane. Indecision is flashes on cooldown. Mikkel didn't get the jump reset, but he flashes out. The tower hit. First blood for Mikkel, and he can follow up with the slow. Gertas is also there, and Oman, he gets a pillar in the face. He gets a Robba roam against himself, and Genk out of nowhere find 2 kills in the mid lane.
Out of nowhere, I would say this is Mikkel clearly knowing how much damage he can do, flashing early. And then the pathing from Indecision. Under the turret, a good block from Seneca to keep Haido really healthy. But this is Mikkel showing up, Mikkel not letting go. And all we needed, this is the perfect start, because now also Gertas took away the rep if I am not mistaken, and keeps presence in the top side jungle, as Robert also taking a very favorable trade onto Kakos.
Yeah, you TP'd back in, but if he gets support from Gertas and Mikkel, can make a play up onto Kakos because he's pushing out the wave. Gertas, as you said, is still in the process of stealing the red buff. Now has it. Indecision already behind level 2 pillar against his face. He doesn't have the flash. And Mikkel is there to capitalize on this play. As long as Gertas gets in front, nice flash to stop Indecision from escaping. A good kill for Mikkel, and they can even continue onto Kakos. It's Robba that gets the kill. Can they still dive? Ooh, 2 tower shops against Robba. Not really a mean wave in position. So sadly for Mikkel, it doesn't get the kill, but it's so great for Genk. This top side is really paying off.
Yeah, but Mikkel didn't have to invest too much. He already shoved out the mid wave and can still TP to the mid lane turret and not miss too many minions. He already has a recurve bow. And that's a good start for Genk.
That's what you like to see. Some aggressions, just taking the game the moment it starts by the tooth, and then being like, okay, we're just gonna attack head on. We're gonna make sure that strong side top this time works out, and this is what I want to see Mikkel do. Take priority in the mid lane and rotate around his jungler.
And Seneca is spotted on this roam. They're trying to take away the raptors, and desperately North is trying to find some jungle camps. Indecision hasn't had a completed third one yet.
Doesn't have the flash, doesn't have vision. He doesn't
just spotted it.
Good play by him. Doesn't overstep, and Seneca was still not back in his lane, so they play it safe. It's literally getting Indecision 1 extra camp so it doesn't fall too far behind, because he lost his flash in that early invade and then got hunted down in his own jungle. He needed an escort of both the mid laner Omen and the support Seneca just to get 1 Wraith camp back so he doesn't completely fall off. And this is what happened to Gertas yesterday, where he was completely out of the game as a jungler and just couldn't catch back up. Mikkel with the Tristana is aggressing over the entire map and is making the life of North so hard. Gertas
He has a red buff.
has red buff, has the pillar to interrupt decision. If he tries to get out, he just does the damage. Pillar is a bit early, but the damage was already done. 220
But this is the
gold
Gertas you want to
extra.
see. You know, Gertas had a really off game on the Sejuani, really slow on the map, not really finding the engages. And the last time he played Trundle, it was even slower, dying very early on, having a bad start, not finding the ganks. But now he's playing
Goes
from
on to
level 1.
Cackles, and he already used his W. The Bellows Breath no longer available. Almost a kill for Roba. Cackles needs to get out, has the TP, so should be safe in his lane to TP back. But we like to see this from Genk. They're now attacking on all fronts. Even in the bot lane, they're aggressively trading, trying to bounce this wave because Gertas is doing that dragon by himself. And before we realize it, it's 4-0 up for Genk. They almost have a 2k gold lead for themselves. They're trying to find plays in the bot and in the top lane, while already the mid and the jungle are so far ahead. And with the dragon going over, they're even capitalizing on the neutral objectives.
And that's what they have to do. Their composition really helps a lot if they have an early game lead. And with that early game lead on Gertas, he has a lot of extra damage. Sheen plus Caulfield's hammer, better said. And if he can keep finding indecision, keep killing him, he has enough damage to do it solo on his own. So he just needs the prio from his lanes. That's exactly what he has been doing, but slowly but surely Nord will scale into this game. Their composition is really good if they get 2 items on their carries and they are not that far behind.
And the funny part is Hiro learned from the past games of Orion, started Cull, but Orion this time didn't go for the Cull, has that extra longsword for the damage. He procs the stun on Hiro, exhaust comes out from Seneca, instantly cleansed a bit late maybe even by Orion, and then they decide not to extend the fight. Hiro still has Ghost, has a flash, so it's hard for Genk to get more out of this. They just want to stay in lane, they just want to have a better back for Orion, because he has that long sword. He will be able to get more fight stats, more combat stats than Hiro before Hiro finishes his kill. Roberto's cancelling the backs. It's only of Seneca, but it does make it so that he's disjointed with his AD carry and that they can keep this pressure in the bot lane.
And that Gertas can steal yet another blue buff. So that was all they needed, but there is a control ward, so Gertas was spotted.
Roba is just rotating out of his lane to make sure that Indecision can't really get a footing in this game, can't really invade the topside jungle where they have vision around the blue buff and maybe wanted to go for a blue buff trade. And Genk, they just need to keep this up, they need to keep the pressure up. I'm just going to reiterate for people that are just tuning in, we are the Elite Series, so we'll have more of a Genk lens, but for both teams it's a very important game. For Genk it's to keep their hopes and dreams alive in this group. If they win this one, they don't have their fate in their own hands, but they can still make it out into the knockout stage. For Nord, this win would be huge, because then Genk, A, can't even make knockouts anymore, can't catch up with Nord, but B, they keep the distance from Wheel of Gaming that is catching up after they won against Genk. Wheel of Gaming right now in the group is 2-3. So if Genk wins this one, we have a 3-way tie on our hands and everything is still to play for. But Genk still has to face then GTZ Esports, who are currently first in the group, while Nord still has to play Wheel of Gaming. So it won't end with a 3-way tie that way. It will only end with the winner of Nord and Wheel of Gaming looking at Genk. If Genk wins against GTZ, then we will have a tiebreaker for second place. But that's in the future.
It's far into the future. We first have to win this game, although that well said segment from you. We'll have a small side note on that one. The game that Genk played against GTZ was pretty close at some stages.
Oh, and also Wheel of Gaming still needs to play GTZ, so if they win that one, the scenario changes again.
Hey, exactly.
Forgot about that one. We're only 3 games in, but it feels like ages already, because we had the very long games today.
We had very long games and we had back-to-back games without any breaks, and that's what happens on the brutal schedule that we're on. That is EMEA Masters. It's not only for the casters exhausting, it's also for all the players. Because they don't play back-to-back games, they sometimes have to wait 40 minutes, but since it's a rolling schedule, you have to be available at all times.
We sometimes do play back-to-back even, so depends.
But for the Benelux, luckily they have 1 game break in between every game they play. That was not the luxury we had yesterday.
So why the Azir was a good pick for Omen is he's really safe against Trundle ganks. You see that Gertas walks up a couple of times, has the Rift Herald, maybe wants to make a play for some plates for Mikkel, but as long as he just walks up out of vision and Omen is in safe position, even if you use the pillar, he can just dash over it with his sand soldiers, be fine, not really blocked by that wall and in trouble by the slow. So for now, Genk, even though they had a very, very fast start, is starting to slow down a little bit. They didn't really find any value out of the Rift Herald yet, but maybe they're just saving it because in 1 minute the second dragon of the game already spawns. What I've seen Genk do a bit too much this EMEA Masters, what I want to see them change up, is spawn the Rift Herald for some plates right before the dragon is gonna spawn, take priority, and then still lose out on the dragon fight. It's better to maybe just take it safe and force the issue. Put the Rift Herald at the moment you can rotate towards the dragon, and then make Nord choose. You either defend the plates or you go for the dragon play, because the play they did before 2 or 3 times already didn't really pan out for them, and I want to see them learn from those mistakes.
And looking at that dragon in 30 seconds, we have some item spikes. Gertas would have liked his Divine Sunder, but oh, he gets it actually. So that's a good spike as well. So we have mythic items almost, or legendary items, just first completed items across the board for Genk, with the exception of Robertos, who doesn't really need it, just needs to block a lot of that damage that's being put out by Nord, or even stop some of those engages. While on the other side, there are no real items yet being completed by Nord, so
Roberto's far up.
Might be a hard one to fight this.
Needs to be careful because Indecision is level 7. He can't
But
just
Seneca's
engage.
level 5, so nobody is safe yet on the side of Nord. They can be saved by the ultimate of the Milio once they get CC'd, and without cleanses on the lineup, they might just be bursted down.
Genk goes for the Rift Herald in the mid lane again, just to play for the plates. With the Pillar of Gertas not really bothering Oman. This Rift Herald will only get off a charge, but look at the flank of Roba. Maybe they can get under the tower. He uses the dominance. They want to catch on to Oman, at least force the flash, but he flashes forward, does the damage. Indecision was already there, and the shuffle is huge. Mikkel doesn't really get the reset. Seneca arrived as well, and Kakos TPs in with the ulti. Genk wanted too much between 2 towers. They do get a lot of plates out of it, but they lose both Roba and Mikkel.
And those are the strong players currently in the game, so now it's impossible to fight.
Oh, this is a dead push in a 3 versus 4. They need to find the damage onto Kakos. Kakos flashes over the wall. Seneca used this ulti there to get him to safety. But that's actually good for Genk, because now it's harder for Nord to start this dragon, with Kakos already low on HP. And Mikkel respawning in a second, with Roba with respawning, and more importantly with the TP. Genk actually recovers from the play. They lost a big chunk of their gold lead. They're only 2k gold up almost. By now it's 1.6k. With this dragon, they do get the second dragon of the game at 13 minutes.
They just hope they're all a good soul. Hextech or Infernal, that would be the dream, especially with those 2 bot laners, or 2 marksmen. What is it going to be?
With bated breath, we're waiting. And it's the Hex Gate. That's actually really
perfect.
good.
That's perfect for Genk. They really need this one, and they're all halfway there.
They already are playing super aggressive behind enemy lines. The Hex Gates can actually amplify that playstyle a little bit, but Orion needs to be careful. He can just get engaged on by Indecision. He plays forward.
But he had no ultimate, so it was really hard. As Mikkel just showed us why Tristana is such an obnoxious pick to play against. Engaging onto that champion when she has the jump.
Hido still has the ulti. I don't think Roba wants this dive without his. Doesn't have the dice. Used the slice already. Now has the dominance back, but he should fall here. Play too far forward. Try to be too aggressive on this Renekton, and gets shut down by the likes of Indecision and Seneca rotating up to Hido. But Genk isn't slow on the play. They react by taking down the mid tower, get the first tower, actually increase the gold lead, back up to... I always want to oversell it for Genk, because it has to be impactful. I don't think their gold lead is big enough yet. I mean, it's 2,300.
No, but they have 2 dragons, so that's something they can bank on.
Okay. It's the dragons that we have to be hopeful of as Genk.
Especially if it's such a good soul.
For the NLC viewers watching, because I know you guys need to take refuge with us, this is not what you want to see, but you still have a lot of scaling. You have a lot of team fight potential in the late game. You have hard engage to get onto Mikkel, who is ahead of the curve. Orion didn't really find any kills yet. Yes, it's the AP build, it's less important, but it's still something you can look towards, like, okay, this game definitely isn't played. Okay, the early game is going to Genk, but it's not going to Genk in such a manner that as an NLC fan you really need to be worried.
Indecision is looking for an engage, and he does find it on Orion.
Ooh, and it's a huge combo that's coming out. The Robertos with the block on the Ornhold can keep Orion safe. They disengaged it, only Robertos, and then some Dutch slipping in there. His flash was used, and Mikkel can just split push. And look at Roba, he's also waiting in the bushes. Doesn't really get a drop on Omen, who is flashless, but Mikkel can just take this top lane turret. Even takes the time to let a lot of minions die.
And there is no way that Nord can contest the Rift Herald, because all ultimates were used. Even Omen using his ultimates, most likely to clear the wave, because there was no way that was going to connect on Robba. Robba is in some trouble. 4 players from Nord looking towards the crocodile under the turret, but Robertos is here already, and he's zoning off most players of Nord, and they don't even get the turret. And that is a good play from Genk. Taking the top lane turret, taking the Rift Herald, completely disengaging from the engage of Nord. And then you can see that the composition from Genk doesn't want to hard engage, but they
Robertos does
can.
face check still, even though he's Q connected. Feels safe enough to walk up. And for the international audience watching, if you're surprised by this performance of Genk, suddenly looking completely different, I'm not, because I saw Genk do something I've never seen before in our own offline finals. They were 0-2 down against 7M, looked completely clueless in the first 2 games, and then out of nowhere, they opted into red side first, took blue side and played a perfect game, like literally perfect game. Didn't die, took all the towers. 7M couldn't do anything. The only player that didn't die on the side of 7M was Flicker, who went completely deadless that series. And Genk just out of nowhere went from a mediocre team that doesn't know what they're doing until to 5 fakers on the Rift, completely washing 7am out of the game, playing a perfect game, going back to a 1-2 scoreline, and then the next game they were back to their wish-washy self. So this happens sometimes. Genk sometimes suddenly play way better than the other games, and the sad part is they themselves don't really know where it comes from. They keep telling us like, we don't really know what it is, but sometimes we're just really insanely good, and sometimes it just goes bad. Like this, the back was cancelled because it was on the ward, and Robertos goes down. So that's a caster curse, my bad, but maybe Gertas can still recover the play.
Yeah, Nord didn't use too much. They only used the Vi ultimate, and that isn't too much of a cooldown. Maybe even they can stall for it when the dragon spawns, but it's mid lane turret that should be the focus for Nord, because there is nothing to do at this current map state, but they don't even get a lot of chip damage onto the turret, so that's good for Genk to keep hold of that one.
Maybe they want to look into a dive against Mikkel, but Gertas is close enough to support in TP in. That's Kakos with the ulti. A counter TP from Genk. They need to find the turret first before they start the fight, and Robba already has to dice out. That's the tower for Nord, but not much extra. And by now Robertos has respawned, so in a 5v5, Genk should have some possibilities against this Nord lineup. There's still 2k gold up. Indecision, engaging on Robertos, that's not the target you want. Flashes out, the ult from Robertos goes wide, and now they can look for the re-engage on the side of Nord. They still have the ult from Kakos. They have an ult from Omen, and they have priority on the dragon now.
They started the dragon, and Genk has to look for opportunities. Indecision has no ultimate yet. Also used the flash earlier, so it's up to Genk to find an opportunity. They don't have hard engage. They have to rely on the flank that's being set up by Robba. He popped the Dominus, but then Nord just peels off the dragon. Just barely, because he re-aggroed it.
It's an important cooldown wasted, but look at the mid lane. The Rift Herald is already up to the second tower. Nord, they're playing this slow and steady. We already saw Gertas steal something today. Maybe he can do it again. The tower in the mid lane falls. Nord is just wanting this front to back. They're keeping Robba off the backline. He doesn't have his ulti. Mikkel, chunk below half HP. The dragon does go to Gertas. If he flashes out, the heist is successful. He does so. Kakos trying with the ulti. The Orn Horn is called. The Forge God is there, but there is no follow-up for that God. And Genk takes the third dragon, are on soul point, and within 4 minutes and 40 seconds, they can play for Hextech Soul.
And how close is that mid-inner turret to die?
Robba maybe overstayed. We need to keep that in mind, because he got knocked back, knocked up by Kakos right now. Bellows Bread into the basic attack is a lot of damage, but the
reinforcements are coming.
Does give some healing back. Kakos can't go too far. They don't confirm the kill. They can't really finish it. And now the reinforcements have arrived. As you said, TP in from Mikkel, easy peasy does it for Genk, and Nord tried to fight back in the bot lane, but they flubbed the play.
And that is unfortunate for Nord, as Genk finds yet another kill. And that is the 2 evolves on Orion, the 2 upgrades, as Robertos gets found again. He's pretty tanky and can just walk away whenever he puts up the shield. The movement speed does help.
Yeah, and Orion still having his ulti makes it kind of dicey for them. They can't really pull the trigger on Robertos because they already hit the Q, so if they then...
Orion, please don't overstay your welcome. Oh,
nice.
Good job on finding out. Indecision is still in that bush. Gertas and Robertos are even coming down to help, and Indecision found his way back into that bush. So does Orion know? Yes, he's being very respectful on the bot wave, not walking past the half of the lane, not even closer. And that makes Indecision back, and he has no real items in his inventory. Has a mythic item still to buy as Gertas has his own. And he's looking to a Frozen Heart, I would say, or maybe even a Ziggs with items in his inventory.
It would make sense if he can get towards the Xayah, towards the Azir, because both are really out to attack based in those long fights. We'll have to track that. Roberto's putting down some deep vision, has Robba to support him. And the tower in the bot lane in the end fell, because Orion never really overstepped. They didn't find a play on the side of North.
He just waited
to take him down, and then the tower was solo HP, he could just walk up and take that tower out of the equation. No more outed towers for North. In the mid lane, don't forget that inner tower, the tier 2 tower, fell to the Rift Herald charge when North was playing for that dragon, and Genk took over the dragon and actually walked away with soul points. So this is the best game state we've seen for Genk today, and the best game state we've seen for the Benelux today. And to put some more emphasis on those words, objective bounties are here to save the NLC. And if North finds a big fight, finds a shutdown on Mikkel or Gertas, they can even look to get some of those bounties from the towers. But right now Mikkel and Gertas in position to at least chunk this tower out a bit. It's a power of a Trundle and a Tristana. They both push really fast, and even though they take some tower shots for it, they do a lot of damage. Now Robba needs to be careful. Oh no. Phase checks into it, has the Dominus, maybe needs to pop it because Omen is already coming, pops the Dominus, gets some health back, stuns Seneca, but that's not the right target because Indecision was tanking the tower. Sadly for Robba, he thought he could go defend the top tower, but there were 3 people of Nord waiting.
Yeah, very well played by Nord. They even get an objective bounty off of it, so really well done by the NLC as they get that objective bounty now.
Oh, if only they had vision in that bush. Maybe with Kai'Sa being there, Gertas could have walked up, used a pillar and then did some damage, and maybe they could play for kill on Indecision. We didn't have the ulti, but sadly for Genk that's not the case.
But now it's just a waiting game, because you really want the soul which spawns within 1.5 minutes. And that is all Genk needs to really find a footing in this game.
The good news for North is, as we said before, you're really not out of this game. You have a lot of scaling, you have a very good front to back, you have comfortable hard engage and very good disengage at the same time. For Genk it becomes harder and harder to play these fights. And you have objective bounties even though you're only 2k gold behind. You just cashed one of those bounties and you still have some left. So it's really easy to catch up in this game, and Genk needs to be careful. Roberto's playing forward, gets knocked up by Kakos. Oman coming in support. There's already 5 members from North in the mid lane. And Genk is trying to get into position to contest this. The poke from Orion isn't that big on Kakos yet. So he can just body block for his teammates. Doesn't block that one, but the poke isn't that big on Hido either.
It's just whenever he procs the passive that it gets really big. That one does miss, so it's a longer cooldown. Omen is slowed, but not in too much danger.
Is fishing, but is walking up into damage of Hido. And the thing is, that pillar doesn't do anything against the competition. Knock up against Mikkel, his jump even gets interrupted. And now the flash forward from Indecision. And that's not his namesake, because that was so decisive. Mikkel was deleted. And the Ornhild wasn't even needed for that play. Mikkel has TP, but he won't be back in time for this dragon. And sadly for Genk, this is where it starts slipping through their fingers. Nord find a good play in the mid lane, and now they can deny the soul.
Gertas had flash, but I don't think he's willing to sacrifice his life when the Baron is on the map. Because then you just don't you just give over the Baron to a composition that will scale better than you are scaling. And you saw whenever Mikkel is being caught out, he's one of the main damage dealers when he is basic attacking. But he gets cancelled mid-rocket jump by just the basic attack on the Brittle.
Yeah.
Well played on the side of Kakos. Finding that opening and delivering his team flash from Indecision just to make sure they get the kill.
Yeah, it's a nice re-engage from Indecision as well. The fact that Mikkel still had flash but didn't get out of there is kind of sad, because not only do they lose the dragon, they just gave 5 minutes over to Nord again to scale into this game. For Genk, that was the worst case scenario where you could just really keep control of this game, go for that soul. If you just go for the fight even, or trade the soul for Baron, you're trading up, but they trade down because they lose Mikkel in that fight. And then Nord takes a dragon. It buys them time in this game. The comp scales even harder into the next fight. So the next fight will be even harder for Genk to play out. And with this pause, they will have some time to figure some things out. But it looks like Nord is getting back into the game with this composition that becomes really hard for Genk to play into. We already saw in the mid lane, Gertas walks up, puts a pillar, goes half HP. He's like, okay, this is not a fight. I need to back down again. So it's
That's
gonna
the
come
hardest thing about their composition. They want to be engaged on, but they have no way of engaging onto the enemy. So when they have a lead, it's hard to pressure for it. It's hard to go to that dragon. So what they should have done is just put the pillar, clear the wave, but don't walk up too much. Just clear the wave and go to the dragon and let Nord come to you. But
that's the thing, to force Nord to engage, because they have both Zaya and Azir are really safe. They have a very easy hard engage, as we see. Like once Ornn gets the combo and interrupts the jump from Tristan, they can just go for the Call of the Forge God, flash fire ults. They can just get on the backline. So to force those abilities out, Mikkel kind of needs to dance on that edge of trying to use his gold lead and his damage output to make sure that Nord just can't set up and clear waves, because if it's the straight front to back, they're already almost losing, and kind of has to bait the hard engage so that then Gertas can respond with his ulti, make someone that's engaging really squishy, get the first kill, get some resets from Mikkel, and that's why we see him walk up a lot, try to do the damage, but then in 2 or 3 fights in a row, he actually gets chunked out, and now even got cancelled out of that fight. Gertas over the wall finds indecision on his face, but remains safe. And for Genk, losing that dragon was really sad, but you just have to collect themselves, look at this game, be like, okay, we're still comfortable in the game, we're still 1k up, we still have some shots at finishing this before Nord is completely back in, but we need to make our map state advantage work, and they have no towers on Nord in the mid lane except for the inhibitor, so you need to just push your side waves, push the waves forward, and then clear the vision and play from there. But Gertas is clearing wards aggressively, and Nord seems to be capitalizing on that. Roberto's also half HP, no shield for him, so that's the Ornn horn, that's the Call of the Forge God. Roberto tries to flash out, but is already down, and Genk is disconnected again. Roba pops the ulti, Mikkel jumps a wall.
That is the disconnection you don't want to see from Genk, and I have a feeling that we're gonna have a repeat game after we just saw them play Wheel of Gaming and be in a similar situation where they had the early game lead, they had the composition to do so, but then just faltered mid-game because the other composition was just killing so much better, and Gertas has to steal it, has to flash it, but
over the wall. Indecision is gonna go in. It's so hard for Gertas to get back in. He gets in, but the Baron is not even low enough. Then he gets instantly bursted. The Baron goes to Nord, and it's so sad because it's just disconnects from Genk again. Roberto's doesn't really get out, uses the shield. You already said that's the go button for Kakos. That's the timers. Like, okay, I can call down the Forge God. He can't be stopped. And then the Dominus is popped when Mikkel jumps over the wall, because Roba was, maybe if I can collapse here if they overextend. Mikkel is out, so he doesn't even get the chance to force the play. In the moment Nord sees that, they're just like, okay, this is free Baron. Like, we already have Roberto's in the dead chamber, he's looking at a gray screen, they don't have a Dominus, Mikkel disengaged towards the blue buff, we can just go for Baron. And this happens way too often for our Benelux teams, where they play very decent early games, or they at least stay competitive in the match, and then make too many mistakes that are punished at this level. This is EMEA Masters. These are the best teams from every region, and Nord is trying to live up to the past of the NLC, because the last couple of years NLC was always really competitive at EMEA Masters. Even though they are now a minor non-accredited ERL, Nord is trying to make sure that they get at least to the knockouts, and the only thing standing in their way is this Genk. Mikkel, he went forward for the aggressive
almost
play.
got the kill though.
Didn't get hero, but also Mikkel survived. Orion with the poke can maybe put some damage in the backs of Nord. And as long as Genk doesn't overextend, they at least get to defend against this Baron buff and keep the gold now slightly ahead for Nord. 1k, but manageable.
I mean, they also have the ornaments coming out, as Haido has the upgraded Navari Quick Blades.
But in 50 seconds we have a soul flip.
Yeah, but at this point, can you even fight it? Going through those corridors where you were fine to do so when Mikkel still had his flash, when Robertos was using the shield correctly.
Okay, they're going on to Gertas. He doesn't really pop the ulti yet to make himself tanky, but he's already half HP. TP in the back, now spotted out. That's Roba coming in, and Genk is split again. Nord already did so much damage. Robertos and Gertas are low. TP for Roba, it already burned. Gertas even reset, and now Now Roba can just be hunted because there's no way Gertas gets here on time. He just uses his ulti to try to cut the wave, but he knows how late it is. Like he can't be saved by his team. He tried to help his team with a TP and it just gets left out to hang.
This is another example of the disconnect that we see in Genk. We already saw it in the regular split and those issues were just never fixed. And Mikkel is left on his own. He's trying to take the 1v1.
Oh, he's not alone. Ryan is there as well. He Buster shots Omen out of there, and the healing from Seneca is too strong for the two carries of Genk to try with a creative play, while the rest of North is taking the second dragon for themselves to maybe find an opening in the top side. Indecision is now hunting down Gertas. How the tables have turned this game, because Gertas' early game looked so strong, looked so good, but Indecision is now loose on the Rift, able to fight off Gertas. I think Gertas still won the Smite fight, but it's a small Pyrrhic victory because you lose your tower, you lose the dragon, and if the first dragon that North took bought them 5 minutes, this one maybe even bought them the game, because now Genk, even if they get the soul on the next one, I don't think it's enough to turn the tides of this game. They are so far behind now on scaling. The ornaments, as you said, were already coming through. The composition just becomes harder and harder to play. And the sad part is that Genk shows more and more of their weakness, of their indecisiveness in a lot of those fights, of the disconnect they have. Gertas in games like this always just waiting in certain bushes, trying to maybe catch someone off guard, looking for a very desperate 20-30% play. And sadly for him, it hasn't panned out at all, this EMEA Master Play-ins. But for North, this is very good news. I mean, they weathered the storm. Genk's early game was a bit too much for them to handle, but they got through. They pulled through and got the first dragon when it really mattered, when it kept Genk rather, excuse my English here for a second, kept Genk rather from a soul. And then after weathering the storm, they're taking control back and they're going to get close to winning this game. As long as they play it out really casually, really safe, they should be able to close out this game, even though if it's in the next 10 minutes, and then they go to a 3-2, which is huge for the standings.
Orion is having a good game though. He hasn't died yet, as he's now being collapsed upon.
Okay, the ulti goes wide.
Yeah, that's a good trade, and Orion has the needlessly large rod going for that dead cap soon. And even though Mikkel is a level up on Omen, I do feel it's really hard to just engage upon that side lane Azir.
I don't think he can. Like this always...
He has been trying, but there's always someone waiting for him. That's what makes it so hard for Mikkel to play the game, because that is what he really likes to do. He just likes to get a good laning phase, and he was, what is it, 4-1 at some point? No, 2-1 at some point.
Roba baits out the TP, just playing for the tower, but Indecision is also there, and Genk is not really in position to answer this play. He does get the tower, but look at Genk. What are they doing? Well, invading. They're not really playing for Baron, not really playing for other objectives, so it's a tower for your top laner. Maybe they get Kakos here because he's not that tanky. If Gertas is there with the ulti, already bursted down by Orion.
And then it's a top lane for top lane trade, but Genk got the turret on the bot lane as well, so
and
that's a good trade. And Mikkel
lane
is already getting a top lane turret as well, so
go
Genk is still
back to
fighting.
Hopium. Indecision doesn't use the ulti on Mikkel there because of the rocket jump available.
And Mikkel is still so rich, 14k gold in his back pocket.
Roba will spawn first with TP, so Genk maybe has some tempo to gain around starting this Baron.
Yeah, but it's
trying
so
to bait
hard.
out Nord, but it's so hard if you get into a front to back. It's so hard if Indecision is in position to attack one of your carries, but it's still a possibility, and they seem to be playing around with the idea. Sadly, they're split up again, and it looks like they're not really getting something out of this map state, out of this advantage. Oh, Seneca is even looking for an engage.
They were hoping to find someone overextending in the mid lane. As Haido tanks another W. If Ryan keeps hitting those, there is still a chance. He has a lot of AP now in his inventory. As this is not a real turret to be destroyed, it's the Azir turret, but it's still pressure gone from the map.
Mikkel pushed in topside, has the TP, went back base, and Orion is hitting a lot of that poke. If a fight breaks out now, they're technically ahead a bit, because Haido is so low already, but it's Azaya, pretty safe in the back line. Has a lot of peel, has that ornament already.
And so it's just not easy to engage on North. Their lineup is really solid. They have a front line.
They just need to keep poking. In 50 seconds this dragon is gonna spawn, and then North will have to decide if they want to walk up.
Okay, I thought Roberto should back on Vision, but he cancelled it. Because of course, whenever North sees that, they can just start the Baron. They have already started the Baron, so they are now luring Genk into them.
Oh, I don't think you want to walk up too far. Gertas is looking. Seneca is the first target. That's actually a good one to have, but the cozy campfire is healing him back up. North is about to burst the Baron. What can Genk do? Gertas flashes in. He steals it. He has the Baron, but can they still play the fight? No, they need to get out. Mikkel is behind on the play. Genk actually disengages, and the steal is huge, but you still can't go for the Dragon.
Exactly, so also the Dragon will go down on the side of North. They will take that one up, and they will be on soul point, but 3 Hextech Dragons are also detrimental
Look at
to
top
Genk.
though, we're just going back to this game plan of just trying to use Chaos to your advantage, sending Roba to the top side. He has no vision in his back, so he's just making sure that he buys some time. The rest of North already have that triple Hextech Dragon, as you said, and looking at a quadruple Hextech Soul, I think there's nothing in the game that I would find more scarier in the hands of an Azir than to have 4 Hextech Dragons and the Soul. So it's something you need to look out for as Genk. They traded the Baron and the life of Gertas for the Dragon. They need to get way more out of it. They were already splitting the map very aggressively. Maybe they go back to that game plan. But it's gonna be hard.
And look in the inventory of Orion, he has the death cap, so this Kai'Sa is doing a lot of damage. It just needs to find key targets. Maybe Indecision is caught.
Okay.
Yeah, he gets caught and has to flash out.
They actually do a lot of damage on him. The Flash is already used, TP is in, Shutdown found. It doesn't really matter that it goes onto the Braum, because
At this point in the game, you just want kills.
it's a hard engage down as well, that now they only have the Ornhorn. And Genk still have the Baron. Now they need to make it count. Are they gonna split the map? Are they gonna play it out cleanly and avoid getting caught? That's the question.
It would also be a first, because every game has been very messy from them.
The Azir Turret was buying so much time. It finally fell in the mid lane. They need to make the poke of Orion count, but also need to make this Baron buff count. Hiro is peeling. He's clearing out the entire wave.
Oh, Ryan has to be careful. If he gets rooted there, it's at least the cleanse being used to get out.
The cozy campfire is just too cozy for North. They're just defending their own base, and even though Indecision fell, used this flash, no tower was destroyed by Genk yet. They didn't really find an opening out of it, and North can just defend the base against this Baron. The Baron that Gertas ended up trading his life for, and they ended up trading the Dragon for, didn't break open the base yet. Even in a 1-3-1 game state, North can just easily clear out all the waves, also because they're not perfectly synced and crashing at the same time. And for North, this is very good. I mean, they're just buying even more time for the composition. They just lost Indecision and didn't even lose their base. Yes, there was some damage on the mid tower. That one is pretty low, but for Genk, they really wanted to get way more out of that situation.
And if you look on the other side on the scoreboard, Omen, 3 items. This Azir has a 4th item now finished in the Zhonya's Hourglass. Immensely strong, but also 4 items on Heido. Plus a stopwatch to back him up if he needs it.
Double supportive items on Vi and Ornn as well to make those carries even stronger. And if you look at the gold leads, Mikkel, even though he's almost 1k up, it doesn't really matter right now. It's not big enough. And same goes for that 800 gold that the Kai'Sa is up over the Xayah. Those are marginal leads in gold, but then you look at Ornn and then you know, okay, you're actually not ahead. You look at the dragons, oh, you actually somehow had the first 3 dragons but didn't end up with the soul. What did you get again? Oh yeah, you got the Baron. Did you break open the base? No. So for North, this is a completely playable, completely fine game state. While for Genk, it just becomes harder and harder to walk up, harder and harder to find fights. And
now it's kind of a dead game, because we'll have to wait for the Dragon to spawn, because North feels whenever they engage, they will lose the first man in, because the Eternal is doing so much work in stealing the stats and then slowing down the engage behind him. Same for the Ornn. And for Genk, there's just no way to engage. They have to hope that they cut someone spotting off with the pillar and get some chip damage on them. And maybe use Gerta's ultimate.
They have to pray for miracles in that split that they've been doing, that North just has a lapse in their concentration at some point. Because the Azir turret is also making it almost impossible for Genk to really push out the mid wave. And that being the shortest wave doesn't give them the control over the game that they need to actually threaten the base of North. North just pushed out, got a tower, can reset now, spend that gold, and be fight ready for the next dragon. The next dragon is the biggest flip of this game. We are going to decide who gets a lot of chances in the run for knockout stage by fighting over a Hextech Soul. It's gonna spawn slightly before the Baron, so it's not really something you can trade right now. And I don't think Genk even wants to trade, because they did it in the past, and even with the Baron buff, they couldn't break open the base. So for Genk, they need to get vision control back. They need a lot of poke to land from Orion before the fight even starts, because if it's just the front to back, the Ornn items alone, the hard engage from North alone is gonna make all the difference. But before now, not a lot of poke has hit its mark. Mikkel is the one being poked out even.
And Mikkel has a full build. He kept onto the Berserker Greaves, needs that extra movement speed. And Nord is fighting their way into the river. Only one minion remains, so that's not enough to put pressure onto Genk in the mid lane.
Nord is not even close to punished walking into this river. The W's of Orion aren't even making a scratch in the front line. Kakos maybe lost 1/3 of his HP, but it's instantly healed back up again, and the dragon already spawned. Nord is going to flip it. They're already bursting it. Roba goes for the flank. Maybe they can go for the fight. Gertas doesn't get the steal this time. The soul is already Nord's. Gertas is down. Roba's flank does nothing. And this is where Genk falters. This is where the Benelux is knocked out of the tournament, you must say, because with the soul, Nord can now look towards the Baron. There's nothing Genk can do. Maybe if they can keep them there, if they can TP Roba in the top side, maybe they can go for one of those desperation plays again. But look how fast that Baron is taken. There's just no chance.
And now with the Baron recalls, there is no surprise for Nord. They can always back off whenever they need. Whenever they see double TPs from Genk, they just use their Baron recalls. And Genk was never in the position. They just gave up every mile or every space that they got earlier around.
You can just say centimeters.
Centimeters, yeah, but it doesn't roll off the tongue, you know, centimeters.
Yeah, that's true. Meter.
Every
inch is what the Americans and the English say.
It's a game of inches, and Genk is losing out
on a lot of those inches. And now they are looking against Soul, or looking against Baron buff. And it's how you fall from that early game, having the first 3 dragons, setting yourself up for such an early Soul, and actually having North take 4 dragons in a row. That really must hit home for the players of Genk. They really must feel like they can't really do anything anymore. The poke is not even making a scratch anymore against Kakos, as I said in the last fight. Maybe if they can get Kakos here with the ulti of Trundle. Nope, the disengage comes out. Seneca called upon his ulti to get his front line out of there. Robertos is actually the one that's gonna fall first. Hiro just chases onto him with his ghost. Doesn't even need to use a flash because Mikkel knocks him out of the base. And Roba, he TP'd in to cut the wave. Can't get anything out of it. They lose Robertos. They lose TP on Roba. And now Nord just looks for the next inhibitor.
Yeah, Roba tanked a lot of those turret shots, but those were amplified by the soul. Oh, and Engage is being found on the right.
He uses his ulti for the shield. Maybe if Roba can buy some time. He's resurrecting out of his GA, but Orion is already back in Genk. They don't know what to do. They have no clue how to actually combat this yeah, I don't know, siege from the north.
Mikkel was trying
siege
to
from the
backdoor,
NLC. Mikkel was trying to backdoor. They were trying to buy time for him with Oman. He was founded in the Benelux. He was trained in the Benelux. He knows that this happens all the time, and he was ready on the play. North, they don't make any more mistakes after the early game. They take control of the game. They finish it out, and they do a huge step